It's essentially one of the greatest Miuras ever. We have built a business model around buying only cars and seeking only cars that I believe in my gut will appreciate and continue to appreciate over time. I really believe in low production, interesting provenance, interesting history, and every car we buy, it has to tell some story. Even if it seems basic on the outside, everything we have, I would probably do better if I kept it in the long run. Unfortunately, I'm not some multimillionaire that could keep everything. Our business is to buy and sell and trade. It's even hard to say that I can choose 10 cars that I'm going to regret selling because, in all honesty, I'm probably going to regret selling all of them. I told the story about my grandfather and him selling the 250 GTO, but this is just the start of many of those regrets. And, you know, as a dealership, we're going to have hundreds, if not maybe one day thousands of regrets. It's going to be an interesting journey to see what we can keep along the way, and hopefully as many as possible. So this one's actually hard to even call this a regret because personally today, there's no way I could have financially been able to afford this car, is the Eddie Van Halen Lamborghini Miura S. This was a car that growing up, I had always seen photos of it. I had always gotten some incredible, I guess, rumors, and it was like a buzz around this car that it was a factory wide body car. After purchasing it and spending 3 months working with the Lamborghini factory, we discovered it indeed was a factory wide body Miura S. Then throw in the Eddie Van Halen story. You throw in the fact that it was a wedding gift from his wife, who was a famous celebrity. It gets better and better. And did I mention that it started life as a Verde green car? I mean, it's essentially one of the greatest Miuras ever. So it's not like I could have purchased it today financially. So it's not a real regret, but it is. It is. So the next one is actually a regret because I haven't been able to find another one for inventory. I had never seen one of these cars until we purchased it, which says a lot because I've been to a lot of car events. I've seen a lot of cars growing up. Everything at my dad's shop, from the Roof Yellowbird to Enzo's, F50s, Countach's. So when I first saw our EB110 Bugatti come off the truck, I was enamored. This car, especially in the iconic Bugatti blue, has to be one of the most pretty cars in person. Incredible to drive, very smooth, and they're insanely rare. You think about what these cars represent in terms of history, Bugatti's history, supercar history, quad turbo. I mean, really, for 1993, 1994, four-wheel drive. Bugatti at that point really put together the best engineers from around the world to build this car. There's only like 90 or so. I think with the SS versions and race versions, maybe a touch over 100. And to see that these cars have been valued between, let's call it, 700,000 and 800,000 makes no sense. You look at the McLaren F1 and you look at all these other cars. Without a doubt, I know one day, I already do, regret selling our Bugatti EB110 GT. This next car, it's actually shockingly rare. I don't think people realize just how rare the late generation LP Gallardos are with a 6-speed manual. I think there's something less than 60 cars that were produced between 2009 and 2014. Of those, only a handful were the 4-wheel drive version. We had an incredible final edition LP 560-4 with a 6-speed manual. Stunning car, 6,000 miles, the right color, pearl yellow. I mean, it checked every box imaginable. And the one thing about that car that's really great is you could essentially drive the car every day, hardly any service issues. You could drive it till the end of time and it would never cost you anything. I don't think collectors have caught on to these cars at all yet. It actually took 4 or 5 months for us to sell, and people were actually confused about what it was. It finally went to a great collector. I hope he realizes the value. If not, we'll buy it back. But I know at some point I will regret selling that car. I already regret selling it. If we can't buy it back, I will regret it till the end of time. So when I first actually started to make a little bit of money, one of the first cars that I bought was a 355 Challenge car. It was one of the first 1995 cars that actually came with a title from Ferrari. So imagine, this was essentially a Ferrari-built race car that could also be driven on the street with a manual gearbox. What I love about the 355 Challenge is essentially you could do a lot of the work yourselves. And with the Challenge, it eliminated a lot of the issues that are prone to 355 examples in general. You get rid of the headers and the manifold issues and all these different things. Whereas the later cars, once they introduced F1 systems and now all the computers that are in a 458 and 488, you can't work on this without a race team. There's probably less than 100 in the world that were produced. Then you think about cars that actually got titles, which were in 1995. There's about 15. I think I sold that car for about $130,000. I don't think you can buy one today for less than $140,000, $150,000. A nice car like my car was $170,000, $180,000. One day, who knows, $300,000, $400,000, maybe even more. We'll see. But I definitely regret selling my 355 Challenge. So we've just sold this car. So I'm still a little bitter about this because it's something that I think I could have squeezed things, made things work. I don't know, figured out, got 4 loans. I don't know. But our 1992 Lamborghini Formula 1 V12 car. Yes, Lamborghini did race in Formula 1. Most people don't talk about it. Most people don't know. But Lamborghini actually poached one of the lead engineers from Ferrari who led a 25-year success sort of at Ferrari Formula 1 to launch their Formula 1 program in 1989, 1990. He designed and built an incredible team, the V12 engine that actually at one point was even tested by Senna with McLaren. The motor sounded incredible. It had a high horsepower and it really had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, Chrysler, who owned Lamborghini at the time, did not want to fund the program more. I think about 15 cars were produced because the teams that ran the engines just didn't have the proper funding. A lot of cars were even reused in seasons. So there could only be like 8 or 10 cars left. We were able to get this example, which was actually from one of the original Formula 1 drivers. So in 1992, when the car raced in Formula 1, it actually placed 6th in Monaco, which was, for Lamborghini, incredible. But the team couldn't afford to pay the driver. So they actually, at the end of the season, gave him his car as payment. This car represents an incredible history, an incredible sort of a moment in the time of Lamborghini and sort of the legacy of Lamborghini. And to say that you can buy a real Formula 1 car with Lamborghini history for around $300,000 is completely absurd and too cheap. So I definitely think that I will regret selling this car one day. I screwed up on this one. It did not even come into inventory. I was negotiating with the seller, spent about a year trying to buy the car. I knew the car existed. The seller's son actually contacted me on Instagram and felt that Curated was the right brand to help his father sell the last Countach produced. So this was not just any Countach. This was the last Countach produced before the 25th anniversary, so really the iconic lines, the iconic look of the Countach, but also a car that was, we believe, the only Countach ever produced in pastel Miura blue. So imagine this car was like bright Bugatti blue with white interior, unique factory interior with this crazy stitching and these crazy inserts in dark blue, blue carpets, blue dashboard, blue steering wheel. I mean, the car was beyond special. As I was negotiating with the seller, a very good client called me. He heard about the car. He said he had to have it. I sold it to him for a small profit. I shouldn't have. I should have kept it. If you've ever followed Curated or watched even some of our YouTube videos, one of the cars I always talk about is the SE30. Again, childhood dream. We recently had an SE30 with a factory Jota kit. I remember seeing these cars when they were first tested by the journalists of that time, and you see the Jota doing these crazy burnouts with smoke everywhere, and then you see the dash with a 400 kilometer per hour gauge. This was like insane. And really, it was never truly tested or perfected by Lamborghini. It was a project developed by their Formula One team, Lamborghini Engineering. So absolutely absurd car. Definitely not practical, but the SE30 Jota that we just sold is definitely a keeper. One day, this is $1 million to $2 million car. The fact that they sell between $500,000 and $700,000 today makes no sense. Carbon fiber body, magnesium wheels, I could go on and on and on. And really, if you think about it, it's similar to the Diablo GT. These were limited production cars. They were carbon fiber body cars using incredible materials, unique titanium pieces, magnesium pieces, and they were made for one thing only: purpose-built for racing. So if you were growing up in the 1980s and 1990s and you were a car nut, you probably had a Road and Track or an Automobile magazine that had a supercar shootout or a speed test. I would say 1 in 3 tests featured an AMG Hammer car. These were the first sedans to break 200 miles per hour. These were the first sedans to actually compete with a Ferrari Testarossa, Lamborghini Countach. We recently discovered a very special car, potentially one of the first AMG Hammers ever produced, one of the prototypes that was brought from Europe by AMG, sold to AMG North America, and used for Car and Driver magazine, etc., etc., etc. An original 20,000 mile car with all of the features, all of the matching numbers. You know, in terms of AMG history, I don't think it gets better. It doesn't get more iconic. You look at all of AMG's advertising now, and anything that's historic uses the AMG Hammer. So we have a pending deal on this car right now. It's funny, even when I posted something on Instagram, everyone was like, don't sell it, don't sell it, don't sell it. I'm not taking anyone's advice. I'm definitely going to regret this one, our AMG Hammer. So besides Ed Bullion, I think you could say that Curated is known as the Murcielago 6-speed manual kings. Every car that's available, we buy it. I've probably paid up many times for a lot of the cars because I believe in the value of these cars so much. Of all the cars we've had, I think to date we've sold 4 or 5 LP640 manuals, and then probably another 5 or 6 Murcielago manuals, maybe a few more. My personal favorite has to be Ed's Verde Ithica 6-speed manual coupe. This is a car that when it came into our showroom, I actually didn't know what to say. And for me to be that starstruck with a car is pretty rare. I mean, we've had MC12s, we've had F50s, we've had Carrera GTs. I can't tell you how many big Ferrari collectors, guys that aren't even Lamborghini guys, came into our showroom and said, wow, what is that? The colors, the options, everything worked so well about that car. Unfortunately, we are in business to sell cars. I should have kept it. It's currently sold. Maybe we'll buy it back, but it's definitely one of the biggest regrets. I think if I had to build the ultimate Lamborghini collection today, the Verde LP640 manual would be one of them. So I have to say I definitely considered and thought about buying and keeping the Countach Turbo. Even my business partners who aren't car guys, when they saw it come into the showroom, and they saw probably the way I responded to the car and my excitement for the car, said, shouldn't we keep that? So I definitely regret selling it, not because of the fact that it's a Countach Turbo or anything like that. I mean, nobody's going to push the car to ever experience the horsepower that's greater. It doesn't matter today. It's because it was such a recognized car. I can't tell you how many people came into the showroom or saw it at events and said, oh my God, I remember that car. Why haven't we seen that car? Even a big guy on the forums in Alan Lambo, who's well known in Lamborghini circles, actually had the original poster and actually sent us a picture. And he's like, I still have the poster, blah, 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 of the car. So I always look at certain iconic cars as when you think of cars that they've made a model of, or you think of cars that have been in magazines or posters, Those are cars that are going to be forever important in the automotive world. It would be hard to pick between the last Countach or the Countach Turbo, but I would say between those two, I definitely regret selling both.
Whether you're packing for a cannonball or just going about your day, it's important to just carry what you actually need. The Ridge has a line of wallets and bags that help you to do just that. Leave the junk at home and just make sure that you've always got exactly what you need with you. So be sure to check out ridge.com/VINwiki and use the code VINwiki at checkout for a discount to let them know how much you appreciate their support of the VINwiki channel.